at visitbath.co.uk/Christmas.
It's another Monday morning. Yet another windy day. So ditch the British winter and chase the sun across the globe with British Airways from London Gatwick. Reach the top of Mount Teede or relax on a sandy beach. Fly from London Gatwick to Tenerife with British Airways, with flights and 7 nights hotel from just £349 per person. Don't miss out. Ends tomorrow. Book at ba.com/wintersun. With British Airways, incredible is within reach. Booking fees and conditions may apply. Limited availability. Selected flights in March.
Whatever job you're searching for, you can find it on LinkedIn. First jobs, flexible jobs, work from home on a Friday jobs, advertising jobs, accounting jobs, HR, PR, even ER jobs, Soho jobs, Shoreditch jobs. Keep me away from the central line jobs. Banking jobs, building jobs, never ever boring jobs. Small jobs, big jobs, lunch in Borough Market jobs, or even voiceover jobs, which is how I ended up recording this ad. Search millions of jobs on LinkedIn and find one meant for you.
They don't chant your name when you give blood, or sing songs about you. But patients and their families will remember you forever. Because your blood can change their lives. We need more blood donors in Tooting, the West End and Edgware. Bleed for London. Join us today at blood.co.uk.
'Tis the season to be hunched over your laptop, not on our watch. In real life, you can feel your senses and your baskets. Feel all the sights, sounds, lols and OMGs. Wear laughing emojis on actual smiley faces. Battery is running low. Take the kids to Santa's Grotto. In real life, you can find just the right present using the most advanced search engine in the world. Your eyes. We can't in real life. Brent Cross, London. Free parking for all sleighs and cars.
The market's record run facing new headwinds this morning on new trade deal questions and unrest in Hong Kong. Not slowing down Alibaba's Singles Day as the company smashes sales records again. We'll have a live report from China. And the rise of the robots, the video of mini cheetah robots getting in a game of soccer. Yeah, you heard that right. That's going viral as the second half of Worldwide Exchange on CNBC starts right now. Welcome back and thanks for being with us on CNBC. I'm Dominic Chu in for Brian Sullivan this morning on Monday, November 11th, 2019. Happy Veterans Day to all those out there who have served and are serving right now. Here's how stock futures are looking halfway through the 5 a.m. hour Eastern time. Wall Street is looking to kick the new trading week off in the red. The blue chips coming off their third positive week in a row and 8th record close of the year. The bond market is closed today for that Veterans Day holiday. You can see here the Dow would open down by about 120 points if these futures losses hold into regular cash equities trading. Well, turning overseas to Asia, markets there saw losses throughout the region as shares in Hong Kong tumbled amid new violent protests. You can see that they were off by about 2.5%. The Shanghai Composite off nearly 2%. And let's see what's happening now in the early trade for Europe. European markets there carrying that negativity, generally speaking, over. You can see the German DAX are off by about 1/3%. The FTSE 100 off by over 0.5% as well. Well, a number of calls on stocks to tell you about this morning, including Piper downgrading Cisco, and Kate Rogers has the rundown on all those upgrades and downgrades. Good morning, Kate.
Hi again, Dom. Piper says it's downgrading Cisco from overweight to neutral and reducing its price target from $55 to $51, citing a slowing macro environment across the enterprise and service provider sectors. Now, Morgan Stanley has downgraded shares of Qualcomm to equal weight from overweight. The bank says the valuation gap to the company's semiconductor peers has closed among other factors. It's moving its price target from $89 to $90. And Evercore is upgrading Hewlett-Packard to outperform from inline amid Xerox's bid for the company. Evercore says it's raising its price target to $24 from $19. It says it sees multiple paths the stock could work higher as a result of Xerox's bid for the company, Dom.
All right, Kate Rogers, thank you very much for those updates on the upgrades and downgrades. Joining me now is Mark Giambroni, Equity Portfolio Manager at Barrow, Hanley, Muni, and Strauss. And I got to say, those upgrades and downgrades are very focused on old world tech names, right? Yeah. That could be considered value these days. For sure. Are technology stocks among those that you consider value-oriented?
Yes, they can be. Obviously, it depends on valuation. But we are actually overweight, or we have the highest weight in technology we've had for a while now at the firm. So again, still significantly less than the overall market, but there's some tech in our portfolio, including Qualcomm. And so when we look at the downgrade today, I mean, the stock has had a huge run. And so even for us, we still see some upside left, but after a large run, I understand a downgrade like this because the valuation's moved up significantly recently.
So let's talk about this idea of value versus growth. We've talked about these rotations within sectors. Now it seems as though, for the longest stretch here, we've seen growth-type stocks outperform value. But in the last month to two, we've seen value start to outperform. Is that the beginning of a new trend?
Well, we certainly hope so. I think it's a question of when, not if. So we've seen the longest growth trend, as you suggested, longer than the Nifty 50, longer than the tech boom in the late 90s. Over the last basically 9 to 10 years, we've seen growth outperform value. The good news is, and as a 40-year value firm, we've seen these things before. When it turns, value tends to outperform for a significant period of time, an average of about 7 years, and a significant run over that period of time. So we see the factors starting to happen. It's hard to say if today is the day or not, but clearly we think it's overdue. And we believe in this trend continuing for a long time.
So when you say value, what exactly are you looking for factor-wise to match your value? Is it dividend growth? Is it price-to-earnings ratios? Is it price-to-sale? What exactly is the biggest factor that you're looking at when it comes to value?
We tend at Barrow Hanley to combine the three factors we prize the most. So PE and price-to-book below the market and a yield premium to the market is the way we tend to define value and build our portfolios. We look at the other things you suggested, like price to sales or EV/EBITDA or cash flow, et cetera. But those are the three components we look at the most and the three that we believe over time adds the most value.
All right, so when you say yield premium, that means you are looking at those dividends as part of that picture. What types of companies right now are the ones that are the highest on your shopping list?
It's interesting. The yield is an interesting paradox right now because generally highest yielding names, we call them the Rust stocks or defensive names like real estate, utilities, staples, telecom. That's traditionally where you go for high yield. Unfortunately, those sectors of the market are also highly valued right now, right? Because rates have been so low for a long time, that's where they benefit. So we have to go outside those areas to find significant yield. The good news is lots of companies now over the last several years have started focusing on yield, growing yield. So you can find meaningful yields in consumer discretionary and financials and energy and industrials. So you don't have to just go to the traditional areas of the market to find yield, especially because those areas right now don't look attractive to us.
Are there favorites that you have right now that you're looking at?
Well, within those sectors, like I said, since we think defensive is expensive, we're generally moving to the more, what's traditionally called the cyclical areas of the market. But trying to find within those areas more stable businesses with good valuations, and again, the ability to grow earnings, dividends, cash flows, et cetera.
Do you care about the Fed? Do you care about these U.S.-China trade talks right now?
Of course. So those are the two big factors in the market. It looks as though the Fed's accommodative, and so let's just start by saying that, right? The whole world seems to be trying to make sure there's an inflation of asset values or a continuation of this growth pattern, so that's a positive. The tariffs, I think, are a huge issue for the market and continue to create uncertainty. The problem is it's hard to know what's really happening out there when it could be trade-related, there could be softening related to that, or is it really an economic cycle? So until we get through some of these issues and there's some clarity around it, it sits in my mind as the largest issue for the market.
All right, Mark Giambroni, thank you very much for joining us this
morning.
Thank you. Well, in global retail, Chinese e-commerce giant Alibaba setting a new sales record on its 11th annual Singles Day, the world's largest 24-hour shopping event. Our own Arjun Karpal joins us now live on the scene. Good morning or good evening, Arjun.
Well, good morning to you, Dom. And this day got off to an absolute flyer. About 18 and a half hours goes. Within 1 hour of Singles Day, Alibaba hit gross merchandising value of $12 billion. And you can see the number behind me continues to tick up. They beat the record in the early afternoon here in China that they set last year of 213.5 billion yuan. They tore through that. That number continues to go higher. Now, let me just dig into a little bit about what Chinese consumers are buying and what's driving that number behind me. Now, there's a big focus on imported goods, and those are usually very expensive in China, but the heavy discount has attracted Chinese consumers. And what's interesting amongst that is the US is one of the top countries from which Chinese consumers are buying from brands from the US. And we've seen actually Apple doing very well today. The iPhone 11 Pro and Pro Max amongst some of the top selling items as well. Nike as well is doing very well. And I spoke to an analyst earlier who told me apparel and jewelry brands are doing very well from the US with Chinese consumer. There was a lot of concern perhaps that there would be some anti-American sentiment given this ongoing China-US trade war. That really hasn't been the case as well. Another big driver has been live streaming. Very, very different to how we shop over in the West. This screen here is actually full of live streams, and if I click into one of these, it will show an internet celebrity talking about a product and offering offers on these products within the stream, which is very, very different to how we're shopping on, say, an Amazon. Big deal here in China, and that's helped drive some of that growth as well. Another interesting aspect is Alibaba has been driving beyond the big cities like Beijing and Shanghai into some of the lower tier or smaller cities in China, and that's helping to bring new users onto its platforms and also drive some of these sales. That's a trend we're expecting to see from Alibaba, and something Alibaba is going to focus on going forward over the next couple of years as well. Let me just set the expectations. Well, analysts have told me today that this number behind me, this GMV figure, well, they're expecting it to reach somewhere around $37 billion. Right now, we're at just over $32 billion. Now, if that is the final figure, that will be a slightly slower growth rate than we have seen in previous years, as, of course, this event matures and that bigger figure continues to grow. But, of course, it might also speak to some of the growing competition here in China from Alibaba as well. That figure is continuing to tick up, and I'll be here until midnight when we get that final tally as well. So hopefully join me later on as well. Dom, back to you.
Singles Day, one of the big, I guess, personalities that we always associate with Alibaba and Singles Days is Jack Ma. Is his presence kind of still there? I mean, I know Taylor Swift was a headliner, but Jack Ma and his whole persona really does kind of have and set the stage for the entire Singles Day, right?
That's absolutely right, but I'm told that actually Jack Ma is unlikely to make a physical presence here today on stage as well later on, as he has done in previous years. As we know, he stepped down as chairman of the company, and that role has been taken over by the CEO, Daniel Zhang. But what's interesting as well, Daniel Zhang is actually taking a little bit of a backseat as well and watching from the sidelines. He said on one of Alibaba's blog posts that he's excited to just be a consumer on this day, and I think they're letting some of the business heads of Tmall, one of their shopping sites here in China, drive a lot of that this year. But one thing you said, the presence of Jack Ma, that is somewhat of a spiritual thing as well. If you talk to a lot of the Alibaba employees walking around campus, the spirit of Jack Ma is very much alive, that entrepreneurial spirit. It's been a hive of activity actually on the campus today. They've actually set up some studios and booths for some of these internet celebrities to come down and do live streaming as well of the products. So there's various things happening around the campus, and I think the spirit of Jack Ma very much is alive in Singles Day as well. Dom, back to you.
All right, the next generation of Alibaba's leaders in full force at Alibaba Singles Day. Arjun Karbal, thank you very much for that. Let's get some more insight now on Singles Day and what it means and the lessons it may hold for broader retail globally and, of course, maybe even in the U.S. Joining me now is Jan Kniffen, CEO of J. Rogers Kniffen Worldwide. He's also a CNBC contributor. Jan, you saw that scrolling ticker and the number in terms of yuan behind him. That's a big number that we're talking about. Does this speak to the health of the global consumer?
Well, we knew they were going to blow through the day from last year. The real question is, are they really going to get to $37 or $38 billion? And right now they've got to do a lot of business in the next, between now and 11 o'clock Eastern to get there. It tells us the consumer's pretty healthy, but the other thing it told us is that U.S. products are selling very, very well.
So that was always a wild card.
Waiting for that.
We were waiting because there was all this talk about how the U.S.-China trade war may lead to some nationalistic views in China with regard to buying their own products and shunning U.S. products. It doesn't seem to be the case.
It seems that price and product quality are what really matter.
Shocking.
Just like here, right? So, no, we weren't surprised to find that out, but we were really hoping we weren't going to find out something different. What we also didn't want to find out is that they couldn't get to their $37 billion, because that would tell us that the slowdown in China is a little greater than we thought. It looks right now like they may make that number, and if they blow through that number, we will know just how strong the middle-class consumer continues to be. And the really good news is we will know that they're continuing to buy U.S. products. And that tells me that the trade war is between China and the U.S., not between the Chinese people and the U.S. people. And we would love to find out that that's the case.
All right, so the middle class in China is still spending. The middle class in America has been spending and has for the better part of the last decade. So does this bode well for the U.S. holiday shopping season?
Well, ISI just raised their forecast this morning to 4% for the holiday shopping season. I've been at 4% for a while. People have been anywhere from 3.6 to 5, 4.5. But if we get 4, it's going to be a really, really strong year. And I think we're going to see that this season, because there's nothing wrong with the consumer. There's apparently nothing wrong either with the 500 million people that are buying on Alibaba. But in the U.S., we're seeing record unemployment. We've got 3.5%. When have we seen that before? Never. We've got record employment. We've got 3% rising wages and 3.5% if you happen to be non-supervisory, which are the people that really go out and spend for us. So I think it'd be great if you're Target, or if you're Walmart, if you're the dollar stores. That's really great. That's 3.5% growth with the lower income consumer.
We've been talking for so long about the health of the American consumer, and they are a driving force behind the U.S. economy. Is there something that might maybe tell us that spending is going to start slowing down at some point here? I only say it not because I'm thinking it's going to be recessionary. I just mean at some point cycles do take a turn, right?
Yes. If we start to see some overall concern about the U.S. economy or about the world economy that starts to translate to people at the level that they spend at, like the people on the street, not people like me and you that are talking about it every day.
Right, but what I'm saying
what would it be?
But what I'm saying is we've been talking so much about how trade wars in the U.S. and China have dampened sentiment. We've been talking about this idea that perhaps there are the signs out there from leading indicators like market ISMs and PMIs out there that have all been saying that things are slowing down. Yet it has not taken a toll on consumer sentiment. People are still spending.
Most people who are spending for Christmas have no idea what you just said. All they're watching is their paycheck. They're watching whether they have a job. And I say all the time, do you have a job? Will you keep your job? If you lost your job, could you get another job paying just as much or more? And if more people can answer yes to that than the prior year, they keep spending unless something happens or unless credit stalls out. There has been concern about the banks maybe not lending as much into consumer credit. That has been a concern, but I think that would have to change by a lot to slow down Christmas spending. I don't think we're seeing that. And all those other measures, which is employment, they're really good.
All right. Jan Kniffen, the bullish take on retail right now. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, coming up on the show, a look at the stories generating plenty of conversation this morning, including likes getting no love at Instagram. It's trending, and it's coming up next.
I'm 52, but in my mind, I'm
It's another Monday morning. Yet another windy day. So ditch the British winter and chase the sun across the globe with British Airways from London Gatwick to see spectacular coral reefs and white sand beaches. Fly from London Gatwick to Mauritius with British Airways, with flights and 7 nights hotel from just £949 per person. Don't miss out. Ends tomorrow. Book at ba.com/wintersun with British Airways. Incredible is within reach. Booking fees and conditions may apply. Limited availability. Selected flights in March.
O Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou Romeo? Deny thy father and come to the shops with me. We can get 10% off 2 big shops a month with the new Tesco Club Card Plus. Oh, and 10% off your favourite Tesco brands, including F&F in-store every day. All for $7.99 a month.
New Tesco Club Card Plus. Value you can't stop talking about. Subscribe online today. £200 max spend per shop. In-store spend only. Club Card app required. Exclusions apply. See online for details.
Some days life can get in the way of catching up on the news that moves your world.
TuneIn is here to help. With live 24/7 coverage from CNN wherever you go on the TuneIn app, you can always find a slice of your schedule, however long, to check in on the biggest stories of the day.
Hell hath no fury. The president's counselor went on a rampage on a taped phone call with Washington Examiner reporter.
Search CNN on TuneIn to get the live news when it matters most.
This is not a commercial. This is a reminder. With TuneIn Premium, you could be listening to more music commercial-free. Get over 45 commercial-free music stations. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
All right, as you can see there, we have now an implied open on the Dow of down 130 points, down 14 for the S&P and down about 44 for the NASDAQ. This does represent a move down towards the lows of the session so far, so we'll keep an eye on those markets. Remember, we did hit record highs this past week. Let's find out what else you will be talking about today. Time for this morning's top trending stories. And for that, we turn back to Kate Rogers.
Hi
Kate.
again. So, Dom, Mercury is taking a trip between the sun and the Earth, offering people a rare glimpse at the solar system's smallest planet. The planet's travel will start around 7:35 a.m. Eastern Time and take roughly 5.5 hours. Those interested in watching the planet as it crosses the sun must remember to bring either binoculars or a telescope that's outfitted with a special solar filter. The view isn't worth losing your vision, of course. And by the way, this phenomenon won't be seen again in North America until 2049. How cool!
That's so. I am going to get the welding glasses and/or whatever I had for the last eclipse, because this could be pretty cool.
Yeah, this looks really amazing. And again, we're not going to see it for a long time. So.
All right. Well, I'm going to go out there at 7:35. We'll see if Squawk will let me.
Yeah, they'll give you a break.
Exactly.
All right. If robots aren't scary enough, MIT's robotics lab is testing mini cheetah robots. The robots have 4 legs and move pretty fast. They can even do backflips, Dom. Each robot weighs about 20 pounds and is powered by 12 motors and can achieve speeds of about 5 miles per hour. They're also pretty smart, which is scary. Each mini cheetah has to make more than 30 decisions per second just to keep itself upright. The robots are cheaper, miniature versions of 3 much larger robotic cheetahs also created at MIT's lab.
What makes them cheetahs?
I guess they look like cheetahs.
I don't know. They look like dogs to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a dog person,
Me
so
too.
maybe that makes sense. But I mean, for the robots themselves, I mean, they're jumping up and down. This is very much like, okay, these are the things that could be seen in a Terminator movie.
How creepy. I don't like any animal that doesn't come when I call it. So this would fall under that category,
They
I think.
they could make it come.
Yeah, I guess, but that's really, it's just so crazy.
All it takes is algorithms.
Yeah, that's right. And finally, Instagram CEO says the platform will begin hiding likes counts for U.S. users this week. Once the change takes effect, the number of likes a post receives will be hidden from public view, though users, of course, will still be able to see the like counts on their own posts. Instagram says the move is part of an effort to, quote, depressurize Instagram and make posting less of a competition and more of a way to connect with users. The platform's already tested the practice in several countries, including Canada, Australia, and Japan. What do you
And
think
of course,
that?
this won't change the metrics that social media influencers use to sell their product.
Which is
right?
so important to that base, of
Right.
course.
I mean, because people make millions of dollars because of the number of followers they have and the number of likes that they get on their certain
But that
posts.
feeds into the hype. So not being able to see that, could be a negative for them. But when you think about young kids and all the social media pressure and cyberbullying and what have you, I do think it could be a positive for them. So.
All right, Kate
We'll see.
Rogers.
Thank
I
you.
still like you.
I still like you
say
too.
it for the record right now. All right, well, thank you very much, Kate Rogers. In sports, the Dallas Cowboys hosted the Minnesota Vikings last night. The Vikings come out hot out of the gate, scoring 2 touchdowns in the first quarter for an early lead. The Cowboys answer with 2 of their own, tying the game at 14 apiece. A field goal will put the Vikings up by halftime. That changes in the third quarter of the game. Dallas briefly takes the lead after Dak Prescott nails a pass to Amari Cooper for a touchdown. But the Vikings respond quickly and hold on to their lead to beat the Cowboys 28-24. So that race in the NFC East is still, though, the Cowboys to lose. Well, on deck for the show, a look at what else will be driving the markets in the week ahead. Plus, Goldman Sachs facing new scrutiny from regulators following a viral tweet over its credit card paired with Apple. The allegations being laid out against the bank coming up next.
It's another Monday morning. Yet another windy day. So ditch the British winter and chase the sun across the globe with British Airways from London Gatwick and witness luscious scenery and calming waves. Fly from London Gatwick to St Lucia with British Airways, with flights and 7 nights hotel from just £739 per person. Don't miss out. Ends tomorrow. Book at ba.com/wintersun. With British Airways, incredible is within reach. Booking fees and conditions may apply. Limited availability. Selected flights in March.
Whatever job you're searching for, you can find it on LinkedIn. First jobs, flexible jobs, work from home on a Friday jobs, advertising jobs, accounting jobs, HR, PR, even ER jobs, Soho jobs, Shoreditch jobs. Keep me away from the central line jobs. Banking jobs, building jobs, never ever boring jobs. Small jobs, big jobs, London Borough Market jobs, or even voiceover jobs, which is how I ended up recording this ad. Search millions of jobs on LinkedIn and find one meant for you.
The swagger of a perfect dunk. The rush of a three made from all the way downtown. The adrenaline surge of great defense. Can you feel the goosebumps yet? There's nothing like live NBA and nothing like listening live on TuneIn. Giannis down the lane of the rim, throwing right corner three. Another TuneIn Premium brings you every minute of the NBA season, so you can be there when it matters most. Never miss the action as it happens. Hear the ball you love. Hear it live on TuneIn. Search NBA today to start listening.
Hi, this is Brian Weber, host of NFL First and Goal every Sunday, kicking off at 1 Eastern only on TuneIn Premium. Be sure to listen this Sunday for the ultimate football fan experience, featuring 7 hours of commercial-free coverage of every scoring play around the NFL.
Welcome back. Time for your executive recap. The headlines you need in 60 seconds. A protester in Hong Kong has been critically wounded after being shot by the police amid the anti-government protests. Earlier this hour, Hong Kong Chief Executive Carrie Lam said the violence of the demonstrators has now far exceeded the call for democracy. JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon says the growing wealth gap in this country is an issue that needs to be resolved. In an interview with CBS last night, Dimon said he thinks middle-class incomes have been flat for the last 15 years. His remarks come amid a recent spat with 2020 presidential candidate Senator Elizabeth Warren on wealth in this country. And New York State officials are now investigating Goldman Sachs and their credit card practices. The move comes after a user of the bank's Apple credit card claimed the card's algorithm discriminated against women when determining credit card limits. Goldman Sachs has yet to respond to a request for comment. Well, the record run by the markets will be tested once again this week with key economic data and an appearance by Fed Chairman Jay Powell on Capitol Hill. Joining us now is Chris Retzler, Portfolio Manager at Needham Growth Fund and Needham Small Cap Growth Fund. And Chris, thank you very much for the early wake-up call. Let's talk about whether markets can be heading back towards record highs and beyond.
Look, the way we look at it, we separate out stocks and economic activity. And we have moved away from that discussion of recession with the yield curve that's now steepened in the last month or so. So you have to ask yourself, has the market been rewarded for those benefits already? And we're thinking that we are kind of in an overextended period right now. But that could just be more backing and filling as we begin to hear from companies over the next kind of 4 to 5 weeks. Is this sustainable? I mean, what we were seeing this summer was out of Taiwan Semiconductor. There was a lot of activity in semis, which are generally a good forecaster of economic activity. And I think we've seen that for the last couple months. The question again, is that sustainable? Is it stuff that was pulled forward with companies like Huawei and ZTE that couldn't buy? And now you have a nervousness to say, let's stockpile. We don't know yet, but that's what we're going to be watching.
You mentioned the semiconductors as a leading indicator. A lot of folks do use that as kind of like their tell. Mm-hmm. We also look at small cap stocks as a leading indicator for what could happen. Small caps have not made the record run. Mm-hmm. Small caps have been far behind the rest of the large cap market. You manage a small cap fund. So are those small cap stocks something to be trusted with regard to whether or not the market overall is healthy?
So I think there's two things with small caps. One is we've been watching the high yield market, which is sometimes a good parameter. Are small caps going to be healthy? And the high yield market's been holding in there well so far. But what we need to see is re-accelerated growth, which then filters down to a lot of those small cap companies. And as the economy's changed in the last couple decades, small caps have more global exposure. So what occurred in the trade, tariffs, and wars And with Huawei, it did impact a lot of our small cap companies. But we're coming into an election year. We think a lot of those incumbents want to be reelected. So I think the rhetoric should get toned down a little bit, and that should be a positive, growth for the economy, which we think would be good for small caps. And money is flowing there at this point in time.
So how do you think 2020 then is shaping up? I mean, how are you positioned? You're a portfolio manager. You have to allocate money, cash, to equities, certain parts of the spectrum. What exactly is the stance that you have right now going into 2020?
Yeah, so at this moment, we are heavier in cash than we have been because we've had a great run for the last couple months. But what we'll be looking for is that rotation that we think is going to begin to occur. I think an area that we'd love to see come back is more industrial names, capital investment that's been held back. So things like fiber optics and fiber lasers, things that are out there that are technologically driven, have good technological moats that where investment will go to modernize. But we need to see a little bit more of, is this sustainable? Again, the rhetoric's been pretty tough out there, and we'd like to see the trade agreement come through, but the right agreement. Don't just do one to do one.
What's the biggest thing that keeps you up at night as a portfolio manager right now? What do you think about when you think about 2020 and what could go wrong?
A tweet.
Really a tweet?
We are one tweet away from being down 500 points. And it's that uncertainty of we don't know. We can't predict what's really going to be said. What is giving me a little bit more confidence is it's going to be an election year. And so are those tweets going to help the polls or hurt the polls? And I think your last guest on was talking all about unemployment. And I think that gets to the confidence and the confidence of voters. So I think that's going to be something that takes a lot more intensity as opposed to let's just fight with our trade partners.
All right. Chris Retzler over at Needham, thank you very much for that Monday morning call. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, that does it for Worldwide Exchange this morning. Remember, futures pointing to losses. Squawk Box begins right now.
Good morning. Stock futures are under pressure as we get ready for another busy week of earnings. Data as well. Also, key speeches by President Trump and Fed Chair Jay Powell. There's something else going on this week, too. It slips my mind what it is. Oh, yeah. Public hearings. Violence erupting during a workday in Hong Kong, right? Public hearings might be something that people are watching. Anyway, one protester, unfortunately, was shot by police. He's hospitalized in critical condition.
Goldman Sachs and Apple facing accusations that its credit card algorithm is sexist. Regulators are now investigating. It's Monday, November 11th, 2019, and Squawk Box begins right now. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Squawk Box here on CNBC. We are live from the NASDAQ market site in Times Square. I'm Becky Quick along with Joe Kernan. Andrew is off today, but sitting in with us, we have Tom Farley. He's the chairman and CEO of Farpoint. He's also the former NYSE president and a CNBC contributor. It's great to have you here.
It's great to be here.
You ready to go?
Yeah, I'm ready to go. Veterans Day.
We are. It is Veterans Day, and we
Singles Day.
It's Singles Day.
11/11.
Singles Day.
11111.
I was there 3 years ago for Singles Day with Jack Ma. It is nuts.
Were you?
They have this big screen where they tally up the sales, and it just keeps going.
Well, it's way nutsier than it used to be. The sales that they've seen today, just overnight, have been far stronger than they saw even last year. It's grown every single year.
It's just growing to the sky.
Did you know that's why? It's Veterans Day. That's the most important thing. But the 1111, did you know that's why? Singles one, the number one. It's 1111.
I didn't put two together. I know that it was 1111, the 11th hour.
They celebrate singles.
Armistice Day.
They celebrate their singularity, if it's a word. But they also, everyone gets married on Singles Day, which is weird. 4,000
putting an
people.
end to the Singles Day.
I guess.
And they have Taylor Swift kicking it all off for them.
Yeah, and you are not single.
No.
Disappointing so many of our viewers out there.
Stop it. Stop it.
What time is it? 6:01. That didn't take me long, did it? If you got it, flaunt it. Why would you not want to be proud?
Let's get to the news.
Okay.
Veterans Day,
fine. Good. No, you're right. You're right. You're right. I'm sorry. I can't help but just the elephant in the room. Okay. I mean, I'm usually looking at Andrew. Okay. So this is very difficult for me.
Please take it away, Becky.
That's right. Put them in two boxes.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for that. That's great. Can you make mine like fuzzy? Do that to Fabo. Make mine really like. Can you soften mine up a little bit? Is it Wow, I'm losing.
No, they're
you know who I feel like? The Bengals versus the Ravens.
Or the Giants versus the Jets.
I had the stupid Giants. Did you see what I tweeted out yesterday? New York Post.
No.
Bengals will keep it close versus the Ravens. 49-10.
Close. Only off by 30.
Lamar Jackson was amazing in that
He
game.
was. Unbelievable.
He looks like Michael Vick.
I tweeted out to the guy at the Post, I go, keep your day job. And I said, wait a minute, is this your day job?
Yeah, probably. But
he needs a new job.
Yeah,
anyway.
Perhaps. Anyway, let's get you caught up on what's happening with the markets today. The bond market is closed for Veterans Day, but stocks are going to be trading on a normal schedule, and you can see ahead of that there are some red arrows. Dow futures indicated down by about 131 points. S&P futures down by 13. The NASDAQ off by 42. They're all sitting at what had been new highs that they all closed at on Friday. You're looking at the S&P. I think it's been up for 5 weeks in a row. NASDAQ's been up for 6 weeks in a row. And the S&P 500, by the way, is on track for its best year since 2013. So far for the year, it's up by 23.4%.
Breaking overnight, Hong Kong police shot and wounded a protester who is reportedly hospitalized in critical condition. Protests escalated into violence, which has been rare during working hours during the 24 weeks since the demonstration began. But police fired tear gas in the central business district as office workers on their lunch break crowded the pavement and protested the China-backed government. Some offices closed early and sent workers home. In the last hour, Hong Kong leader Carrie Lam said the violence has exceeded demands for democracy. She said the demonstrators are now the people's enemy. We're going to continue to monitor the situation, bring you updates as we get them.
It is Singles Day, as we mentioned. That's the world's largest 24-hour shopping event. And e-commerce giant Alibaba has already set a new record in terms of sales, topping last year's record of nearly $35 billion and still climbing. Arjun Karpal joins us right now from Alibaba's campus in Hangzhou, and that's in China too. Arjun, what can you tell us this morning?
Well, Singles Day, which kicked off just over 19 hours ago, got off to an absolute flyer. Within the first hour, Alibaba racked up gross merchandising value, that figure you see behind me, of $12 billion in an hour. Now, let me just dig into what's driving that growth and what's allowed Alibaba to hit that record you see behind me now, just over $32 billion. There's been a lot of focus on imported goods, which are typically very expensive in China because they are imported and are now facing heavy discounts on Singles Day. That's attracted Chinese buyers. Things like cosmetics are doing very well. Clothing, luxury brands, all doing very well. And there was a lot of talk coming into this Singles Day. Would American brands be affected by the ongoing US-China trade war? Would there be any anti-US sentiment? That doesn't seem to be the case. Actually, the US is one of the top countries from which Chinese buyers are buying from. Some of the brands doing well include Nike and Apple. Apple's iPhone 11 Pro and Pro Max are among some of the top-selling new products at the moment. And analysts have told me earlier that apparel and jewelry are also doing well. Another thing driving the growth today is actually consumers from some of the smaller Chinese cities, not necessarily your Beijing and Shanghai and these giant metropolises. Some of these smaller cities are coming on board, more disposable income and spending on Singles Day as well. And another part of this whole experience is the entertainment. You guys mentioned Taylor Swift earlier. That kicked off Singles Day last night, but also live streaming. You get these internet celebrities live streaming about products, and within the stream, which people are watching on their mobiles, can buy the products. That is very, very different to, say, how we shop on Amazon, for example. And it's a very Chinese phenomenon that's spreading across Asia to places like Japan and South Korea as well. Now, let me just set the expectations. The analysts have told me that they're looking for a figure at the end of the day, midnight, in just a few hours, of about $37 billion in total GMV. Right now, as I mentioned, we're just above $32 billion at the moment, so a little bit way to go, but still a few hours left on the clock. Now, if we do hit that $37 billion GMV total, that will be a slower growth rate than we have seen in previous years, perhaps because this is an event that continues to mature and hit those big figures, so maintaining a 30-40% growth rate could be tough. But also, Alibaba is facing stiffer competition from domestic rivals, the likes of JD.com and Pinduoduo as well, both US listed, I might add as well. But look, this figure continues to tick higher throughout the day. A few hours left. I'll be here through midnight bringing you that final figure in just a few hours. For now, guys, back to you.
Arjun, that number behind you is clicking faster than the national debt clock that we have just around the corner here. faster and faster and faster.
That's right. I mean, it's moving fast. I mean, I was taking a browse earlier. I haven't bought anything yet. Just waiting, seeing what deals are about.
Really?
But
Holding out?
You know, a lot of people actually pre-ordered. Just holding out. A lot of people pre-ordered over the last couple of days, and as soon as midnight hit here in China, they were on their phones ordering the stuff. So that's what partly explained the kind of huge tick up. If you saw it earlier, it was going much faster than that. It slowed down somewhat as some of the latecomers, perhaps finishing work, are just looking at their phones and buying deals. But look, as you mentioned, it's continuing to tick up. We're just over $32.4 billion right now. So still a few hours left on the clock, and that's only going to tick higher.
Arjun, I remember I was there in 2016, as I was mentioning, and I had a conversation with Jack Ma where the clock behind you just kept ticking up, and I said, well, geez, this can't go on forever. And the number that year was 18 billion. And so listening to you just 3 years later, it sounds like they're going to more than double that total. I mean, does this just keep going forever? It's now up to 15% of Amazon's annual revenue on a single day.
Yeah, I mean, this will continue going. It's such a huge thing here, and there's so much excitement around it. I mean, when you look at the likes of Black Friday and Cyber Monday over in the US and other parts of the world as well, it's a very different experience. I mean, it's kind of crazy that they had a 3-4 hour gala last night to kick off this event with Taylor Swift performing, a load of other local celebrities here in China with huge followings as well. It's a whole different experience. And actually, let me show you something very quickly. This screen here is a live stream. You get all these internet celebrities here talking about products. And at the top here, you've got all the discounts, people in their apps buying stuff as these live streams are going on from these internet celebrities. Very different experience, I'd say, to what we have when we're shopping on an Amazon or some other site as well. So that's all part of what they call here shop-attainment experience. And that's actually helping to drive growth as well for Alibaba and many of these other e-commerce giants in China as well.
I think we've added about 1 billion yuan while you were talking behind you, Arjun. Thank you very much. We will see you again soon, but thanks for bringing us up to date with that.
And stepping it a little here, Uber CEO is backtracking after calling the murder of Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi, in his words, a mistake. In an interview with Axios on HBO, Dara Khosrowshahi compared Khashoggi's death to a fatal crash by one of his company's self-driving cars. Axios said that Khosrowshahi did call back about an hour after the interview, expressing his regret for what he said, and he later emailed a statement saying, I said something in the moment that I do not believe.
In the meantime, the New York Department of Financial Services is launching an investigation into Goldman Sachs' credit card practices after a tech entrepreneur accused the bank of discriminating against women. David Heinemeier Hansen spoke out on Twitter saying that Goldman's algorithm for the Apple credit card gave him a credit limit that is 10 times higher than his wife, even though the couple files joint tax returns and his wife has a higher credit score. Hansen is the creator of the programming tool Ruby on Rails. He said that after the complaints, Goldman bumped up his wife's credit limit without requesting any additional documentation or addressing the root of the issue. That tweet drew the attention of Apple co-founder Steve Wozniak, who said that the Apple card gave him 10 times the credit limit that his wife got, even though they have no separate bank accounts, they share all the same accounts. He also said it was difficult for him to get in touch with a human for a correction on that. On Twitter, Goldman Sachs bank support account tweeted, with Apple Card, your account is individual to you. Your credit line is yours, and you establish your own direct credit history. We look at an individual's income and an individual's creditworthiness based on these factors. It is possible for two family members to receive significantly different credit decisions. In all cases, we have not and will not make decisions based on factors like gender.
J.P. Morgan's Jamie Dimon speaking out about the wealth gap in America. In an interview with CBS's 60 Minutes last night, he was pressed on the issue of income inequality and his own salary.
Executive pay. Last year, you were paid $31 million. Too high?
The board sets mine. I have nothing to do with it.
Well, you could return some of it.
I could. Is that going to solve any of those problems?
I don't know.
I'm going to leave it to the board to set my comp. Not you, not the press.
You've answered
my board,
every one of my questions, but this one you're fobbing off.
Yeah, the board has to do it.
Well, let me ask it in a general way. Should executive pay in this country be curbed?
What does that mean?
Cut back. Should there be a way to say, we're not going to have such a spread between our workers and the guy at the top?
You know, when you say something like that, you got to say, how are you going to do it? What does it make sense? I think you use the tax system to do that. I would not have cut the tax on the rich. I would have expended your earned income tax credit instead, which is like a negative income tax for lower paid people.
What's Buffett's thing? You criticize with...
Criticized by category, praised by name.
I mean, I'm talking about 60 Minutes. I'm not talking about Jamie. I went back to the football game after about 5 minutes. There was an important... Well, I didn't. But, I mean, I can interview Jamie myself and get these kind of... Or I can watch us interview him. Now, he needs a bigger audience, so he goes on 60 Minutes. I guess there's a reason for it. But the questions were... Now, Leslie Stahl. What's Leslie Stahl's salary? And what is the average CBS employee salary? Is it... How many? What's the multiple there? And what's her job? Asking insipid questions that she doesn't really understand. And what's he do? He actually has 250,000 people are employees that depend on him to make the right decisions for a bank, to gauge credit worthiness, to anticipate the financial crisis better than anybody else anticipated it, to protect shareholders.
She made all those points. She made the points about the 250,000 employees. She pointed out that he's the last man standing, the only one who's still there since the financial crisis. I couldn't figure out why Jamie agreed to do it until I saw the second part. If you watch, there was a second part after the commercial that was all about what J.P. Morgan and Jamie Dimon have done in Detroit, and that was actually a very good piece and very thoughtful. I didn't realize, I was watching the beginning, I was like, why did he bother to do this? Why would he do this? Because it doesn't come off very well.
You get to reach a lot more people, I guess.
But it seemed to me like it was a bait and switch. They did this whole piece on Detroit. I don't know if you saw it, Tom, but they did this whole piece on Detroit where J.P. Morgan has put in $500 million, or is taking $500 million after the $100 million that they already invested in Detroit, where they've done very good work and where they are making a difference, along with other companies like what Quicken Loans has done, Dan Gilbert have done, and others that have done this. But they are going block by block out in the suburbs and trying to rebuild them. That piece was very good and very interesting. I think this was the, by the way, we got to talk about news.
This was the snarky MSM approach to fat cat banksters. But what was the last one I saw her do where I said I'm not going to watch this one? Or it's just 60 Minutes in general. It's not just Leslie.
I actually thought the Detroit piece was very well done.
Well, I missed that. I was back.
You should have stayed to see the rest.
Really?
That was very well done. Yeah. This part at the beginning was like, okay, let's address the fact that you've made comments about Elizabeth Warren and she's taken and run with that. And I don't know if you saw over the weekend, Elizabeth Warren had this entire, here's the billionaire calculator. It's a very snarky type of thing that you go in and says, are you a billionaire? Right. Yes or no? And then you say, oh, you're not. Let's find out how much these guys are making. And it's every billionaire who's said anything about her. Yep. They had Bezos. Bezos just got thrown in, but Bill Gates very recently said something with Andrew that got picked up and he's in it. It had Lee Cooperman. It had Jamie Dimon. It had all of these guys. It was missing. I thought that, Warren Buffett's not in it because he hasn't
had great interviews that I would, if you wanted to get the word, I would rerun some of those interviews.
You should have seen the Detroit piece. The Detroit piece was actually very well done and thoughtful, and it does talk about in a broad way what J.P. Morgan has done there that none of us have really highlighted very well. So it served its purpose with the second part of it. It was a very well done piece.
Don't you think we're just starting with this as a topic too? I mean, I know it's been going on now with Elizabeth Warren for a year, but I think she thinks it's a winning issue. 60 Minutes thinks it's a winning issue. I mean, $31 million. It is a staggering amount of money. And so the thought is, you just keep saying 31 million or Elizabeth Warren billionaire, and they all feel like it's winning issue.
If the boards, that's the problem is if it's a good old boy network and the boards are in the pocket of the CEO, that's one thing. But if it's based on creating billions of dollars of shareholder value, which might not be created by another CEO. I mean, there is a race to get good talent, and you can see what happened.
Europe. That's you can no further than Europe, where CEOs can do a fabulous job and they don't make outsized rewards.
Over here, the turnover of CEOs here is at an all-time high, because if you're not any good, there's a lot of times where you're not going to keep your job. And if you are really good, Jamie Dimon, there's a reason he's around at this point. He's one of the best risk managers around. I hear you with the 31 million, but if you're a lefty and you really got, heat and you can throw a changeup, do you know what you make on the baseball field for that? Do you know what you make when you're a great
about 31 million?
Yeah, you make about $31 million. So, I'm not...
No, Joe.
What did you say? Well, you said third. What?
You just agree. I'm saying there's a view. There is a certain amount of the viewing public that watches Elizabeth Warren and says, "Oh, billionaires must be terrible people," and they don't stop to say, "Well, what is the backstory? Did they earn it? Was it valuable? Did they create jobs? Did they help the economy? Would it actually be good for our economy to, have billionaires go to zero?" There is a segment of the of the
Well, I
public.
heard an
that
interview this morning with the guy who had been advising Elizabeth Warren. We've had him on here. The guy who advised her on the wealth tax, who we've had on here.
The economist.
Yeah, Zuckman, the
Yeah.
guy who we've had on a couple of
Right.
times. I heard an interview with him this morning on BBC. And basically, he said, billionaires shouldn't exist, right? Nobody deserves that much money, is the theory that goes into it, behind it.
Right. I like I said, I with Green Bay, that game, did you watch the end of that? I'm not kidding. It's snowing. It was awesome. And I had Green Bay, and they had to win by 5, and by this much, they hung on.
And you didn't have to watch the interview.
DraftKings has made your life
Thank
so
God.
much more interesting.
DraftKings, I'm down. I'm down. I think I'm down to $300 now, but I think I bet on like 16 games.
You watch every minute now.
And it's getting worse because I bet on an NCAA basketball game today.
Wow.
So it's getting worse.
I've heard Jamie make a passionate defense of CEO compensation.
Yeah, he does.
Before. Yeah, I don't.
But also just in
maybe
general.
60 Minutes cut it.
But just he's very sensitive to income inequality and trying to equalize opportunity across the board for everyone in this country.
Which is what the firm has done.
And philanthropy and everything else. But he will defend capitalism as the best system, obviously, that the world has ever found to try
I wish you'd seen the other part of it, because they did a very nice job on what JP Morgan's done with job training, with trying to rebuild on a block-by-block basis, and it did get into a lot of that afterwards.
Look, there's a reason Mike Bloomberg is getting in, because Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders' view of the world and their take on what we should do with the economy is bonkers. And if they run either one of those people, they're probably not going to win. Right? And they're going to give Trump another 4 years.
And I think she loses every single one.
They can appeal to people that, for whatever reasons, think that. I mean, we have tried socialism many times. There are places where they think that the state should own all the means of production. Fine, you can try it again. Maybe it's never been done right, but I don't think it's ready to get a majority or plurality in this country at this point. Do you?
No, I think people.
What
know
was your
that she's
previous
selling
life?
them a
Weren't you
bill
in
of
the
goods.
charge of something like some big stock exchange or something?
I ran the New York Stock Exchange, and I made
the bastion of capitalism.
I made very passionate.
You feel
defenses of
guilty? You
capitalism.
make too much money? Are you self-loathing now? Or
Capitalism is the greatest force for good the world has ever known.
Okay, good.
Poverty is down by 80% during my lifetime, due by and large to capitalism.
And you can watch it happening. And it's really not that old. It's about 500 years old since you could own your own ideas and patent them and benefit from them.
I think the public knows Elizabeth Warren is selling them a bill of goods. There's just no way.
Really? That's why she's going to be the nominee and leading?
She's going to lose all the swing states, all 6 swing
Who's
states.
going to
maybe
win then?
8 swing states.
Who's going to win?
You don't even know who's going to win the nomination.
No,
right. I'm saying if she wins, Becky. I'm saying, pardon me, if she wins, I think she loses all.
I think there's a lot that can happen between them.
Right.
All right, coming up, get ready for a busy trading week. Among the highlights, closely watched speeches by President Trump and Fed Chair Jay Powell. We'll tell you what to expect. That's next.
This CNBC program is sponsored by...
It's another Monday morning. Yet another windy day. So ditch the British winter and chase the sun across the globe with British Airways from London Gatwick. Experience Mexican culture and relax by the Caribbean Sea. Fly from London Gatwick to Cancun with British Airways from £275 each way based on a return fare. Don't miss out. Ends tomorrow. Book at ba.com/wintersun with British Airways. Incredible is within reach. Booking fees and conditions may apply. Limited availability. Selected flights in March.
O Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou Romeo? Deny thy father and come to the shops with me. We can get 10% off 2 big shops a month with the new Tesco Club Card Plus. Oh, and 10% off your favourite Tesco brands, including F&F in-store every day. All for $7.99 a month.
New Tesco Club Card Plus. Value you can't stop talking about. Subscribe online today. £200 max spend per shop. In-store spend only. Club Card app required. Exclusions apply. See online for details.
Far wing. Elevates. Triple bucket.
The roar of the crowd. The shot clock ticks down. Will the ball go in? The suspense is pure torture, but you wouldn't miss this for the world. And the replays just don't cut
To the
it.
sideline. The man bleeds for 3.
TuneIn Premium brings you every minute of the NBA season streaming live, so you can be there when it matters most. Hear it now, Hear it live on TuneIn.
Fake in the lane, turnaround jumper from 8 feet is good on the right
Search
spot.
NBA Today to start listening.
In the dictionary, a podcast is this: a digital audio file made available on the internet, typically as a series, of which new installments can be received by subscribers automatically. But on TuneIn, a podcast is this.
I'm Adam Grant, and this is Work Life, my podcast with Ted. I study how to make work not suck.
And it's defined like this.
Blackout is a suspense-filled thriller from Endeavor Audio and Q-Code.
From news, sports, to pop culture, comedy, and beyond. Define your own podcast possibilities on TuneIn.
Welcome back to the start of a busy week. Here's what's on the Squawk Planner. The bond market's closed for Veterans Day today, but stocks trade on a normal schedule. Tomorrow we're going to get earnings from CBS, Tyson Foods, and Smile Direct Club. We'll also be watching when President Trump speaks to the Economic Club of New York at about noon tomorrow. On Wednesday, we'll get earnings from Cisco and Tencent and the latest read on CPI. And also on Wednesday, Fed Chair Jay Powell will speak before the Joint Economic Committee. Then on Thursday, earnings from Walmart, NVIDIA, and Canopy Growth. We'll get PPI and jobless claims. And Fed Chair Powell speaks before the House Budget Committee. Then on Friday, we'll get the latest retail sales and import price data. I think we've got, it should be interesting today. Who's there? Cuomo at the Veterans Day Parade?
Veterans Day Parade along
President
with
Trump and the blah, blah, blah. All, I think, are they all going to, that's going to be.
On the same float. They're all on the same float.
Are they all going to be doing the.
I think President Trump is only meeting them ahead of time and saying something. He's not actually marching, so you're not going to see the three of them riding the float together. That would be fun.
It's going to be fun anyway. I mean, seeing them, that's the world we're in right now, isn't it? It's like open warfare. It's crazy. Anyway, join us now to talk like the show most to talk markets in the week ahead. Jason Ware, partner and CIO at Albion Financial. Gene Goldman, CIO at Cetera. Gene, I'll start with you. I was reading your notes. The market's down today, so you're going to look a little better today in terms of your past appearances. You're still don't really like stocks. You think things probably could still happen, that the trade war could reemerge. You never know what President Trump's going to do. But how long have you been not friendly towards stocks? The S&P's, 30, where is it now? It's 35th, something like that. We're at 2,700. Were you recommending no investments? Or honestly, when did you get negative?
Thank you, Joey. And hey, Joe, thank you. Happy Veterans Day. Clearly, throughout the year, we talked about this. We've been cautiously optimistic. We've been looking to take the right bets in our portfolios. Just recently, we've turned cautious. Yes, some of the downside risks are starting to fade, but there's still 3 or 4 clear risks that we're watching carefully. You alluded to them earlier. The trade war, yes, it's on pause, but President Trump can easily retweet something, and all of a sudden, things get reversed. We saw this on Friday. We were a little surprised that markets didn't reverse on the news. Second of all, valuations are pretty high. 17.4 times forward earnings, well above the 5-year average. This is pricing in absolute market perfection. You look at third quarter earnings, down 2.4% year over year. Even this year, first, annual earnings up 0.1%. This year's market move is really pure price multiple movement higher. Third of all, you talked about this earlier with your earlier guests. We really believe the political uncertainty. You have, Michael Bloomberg jumping in. This definitely benefits Warren as a candidate. We'll see how markets like that go on a go-forward basis. And our last point is bond yields. Bond yields have jumped up 40 basis points over the last month. Think about if you're a foreign investor. A lot of foreign investors are buying U.S. Treasuries. Now their bond prices are lower. If the dollar has like a 5% decline, all of a sudden these investors have a 2-year loss in yield. So we're watching this very carefully. Again, we're not like Polly pure hearts and complaining about the markets being very negative, but all we're saying is be very, very cautious in this environment right now.
Where are you, Jason? You think we go? Let's call 3,000 just the average of where we are. We're going above that or below that in the near term, in an intermediate term, or the next 6 months.
Well, I think just looking at the fundamentals, looking at the momentum in the market, I think the safer bet is that we're going higher. I mean, we're certainly not
short-term traders at Albion. We're long-term investors, so we prefer to take a little bit of a different view on where it's going to go versus 3 to 6 months. But what we heard is a list of reasons not to own stocks a moment ago, and I would argue that there's a lot of reasons to own stocks, especially if you're a long-term investor. I mean, valuations are not that expensive relative to interest rates and inflation. We have earnings estimates that have now come down to a lot more reasonable hurdle in our view. I think Q4 is expected to be negative slightly again next year, 8-9%. We think that's something that can be achieved by the market. Meanwhile, trade's been kind of put on the back burner. Companies are telling us the economy is doing okay, and if you look at the fundamental underpinnings of this economy, we think that we're still in a 2 to 2.5% GDP environment. So those are all good reasons, I think, to be owners of good companies for the longer term, and that's what we're telling our clients.
If earnings are going to grow 8% next year, 16.5, 17 times seems really cheap. Are earnings going to come down from 8%? Or are we just going to see the multiple expand as the market believes?
It's a great question, and I agree they are cheap relative to that expectation. And in truth, what typically happens is that earnings start high and they come down, analysts revise lower, and of course that hurdle gets a little bit easier to beat, and it's expectations or results relative to expectations that's really going to drive stocks. So I think that's a good setup for next year. I'm not sure whether or not we're going to beat that 8 or 9% bogey, but I think that it's probably in the ballpark, and I think it's supportive to equities as we look out over the near term.
So go ahead, Gene.
Yeah. So, I mean, we look at earnings 8-9% next year. They are a little elevated. You look at, obviously, there will be some inflationary pressures. Look at wages are rising. There are concerns. So we do believe that wages will push earnings down. Margins will be declining. So we do expect analysts to revise next year's earnings. Right now, 8-9%. We could see them being revised down into 6-5% pretty easily.
Okay, we're going to end it there. Gentlemen, Jason, thanks. Gene Goldman, thanks. Okay.
Thank you.
When we return, we have a special edition of The Executive Edge. We're going to talk about hiring veterans next. Squawk Box will be right back.
Squawk Planner is brought to you by Ameriprise Financial. With the right financial advice, life can be brilliant.
How well does your financial advisor know you? If they saw you on the street, would your advisor recognize you? At Ameriprise, we see you as more than a client. That's why our advisors care about what's important to you. They offer personalized advice to help you prepare for what's expected and even what's not, giving you the freedom to live financially confident. Because to us, you're more than just another face in the crowd. With the right financial advisor, life can be brilliant. Ameriprise Financial.
How do we make the future of energy ours? By knowing who we are, where we're going. By remembering the roads we've traveled. While developing new paths of our own. At American Electric Power, we're working to generate new ideas and empower possibilities for us all. Shaped by who we are, where we live, and what we value, the future is ours to hold.
Datadog has become the modern monitoring and analytics platform in the cloud age.
When we started Datadog 9 years ago, our mission was to break down silos and bring teams together. Nearly 9,000 of the world's most innovative companies rely on our platform daily to run their business and delight their own customers. We see a massive opportunity in the years to come, and as we celebrate today's milestone, we are even more excited about the future.
Congratulations, Datadog.
I don't like the idea of my broker taking the opposite side of my orders, or selling my orders to high-frequency traders. So I use IBKR Pro. But if you're not sure about your decision, you can switch to IBKR Lite and pay 0 commissions with no minimums and no inactivity fees. And then switch again and again. The broker trusted by professional investors is now available for free with IBKR Lite. Start trading today at IBKR.com.
When it comes to your customers' expectations, there's one thing you can be sure of. They're changing by the nanosecond. That's why Cognizant created a unique engineering approach to design and build new digital products. Learn how Cognizant Software Vision designs experiences and engineers outcomes.
Cool.
The flock blindly falls into formation. Flying south for the winter, they never stray from their predetermined path. But this season, a more thrilling journey is calling. Defy the laws of human nature at the Season of Audi sales event.
Time now for a special Veterans Day edition of the Executive Edge, and we want to draw your attention to veteran underemployment. Gaming company Activision Blizzard's Call of Duty Endowment has launched a campaign with former Defense Secretary General James Mattis. His message is that one of the best ways to honor veterans is to hire them.
You'll hear a lot about how coming out of the military means you're somehow damaged goods. I would reject that. I believe that people coming home from combat can actually have gone through post-traumatic growth, where they grow stronger, they grow kinder, they're more courteous, and probably the most important thing we can do is provide jobs for those who get out of the military.
The Call of Duty Endowment has funded job placement for more than 63,000 veterans just in the last 10 years. It aims to hit 100,000 placed by the year 2024. We're going to talk more about this important issue later with General David Petraeus.
All right, coming up, a couple of downgrades to tell you about, including HP and Qualcomm. We'll show you the reaction in the stocks straight ahead.
Today's big number, $630,000. That's the median listing price of a house in Hawaii, making it the most expensive place to buy a home in the U.S., according to data from Zillow. Executive Edge is...
It's another Monday morning. Yet another windy day. So ditch the British winter and chase the sun across the globe with British Airways from London Gatwick and explore tropical rainforests. Fly from London Gatwick to Costa Rica with British Airways from £218 each way based on a return fare. Don't miss out. Ends tomorrow. Book at ba.com/wintersun with British Airways. Incredible is within reach. Booking fees and conditions may apply. Limited availability. Selected flights in March.
O Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou Romeo? Deny thy father and come to the shops with me. We can get 10% off 2 big shops a month with the new Tesco Club Card Plus. Oh, and 10% off your favourite Tesco brands, including F&F in-store every day. All for $7.99 a month.
New Tesco Club Card Plus. Value you can't stop talking about. Subscribe online today. £200 max spend per shop. In-store spend only. Club Card app required. Exclusions apply. See online for details.
Dell celebrates your small business this November with early Black Friday deals. Our biggest Black Friday ever starts right now. Save up to 50% on business tech, including Windows 10 computers, powerful servers, and the latest award-winning monitors, all with free delivery. Call 0800 085 4878 to talk to a Dell advisor today. That's 0800 085 4878. Or visit dell.co.uk/SB deals for Dell's biggest Black Friday ever. Limited time online offer. Hurry while stocks last. T's and C's apply.
A lot of people aren't aware that TuneIn lets you listen to the same terrestrial stations that you pick up on your FM AM dial, except you can hear them from anywhere. To see all the stations broadcasting in your area, find the local radio section on the home screen. Keep it local with TuneIn.
The puck drops. 12 players face off to win. The suspense is pure torture, but you wouldn't miss this for the world. TuneIn brings you every minute of the NHL season. Listen live to hockey when it matters most on TuneIn.
Hey NFL fans, can't watch the game? Can't be there? No biggie. With your TuneIn Premium membership, you have unlimited access to every team and every game in the league. Listen live as it happens or on demand. Anytime, anywhere. All season long. Search NFL today.
U.S. equity futures at this hour indicated down about 140 points. There is some weakness at the outset, the beginning of the week. Obviously, with the NASDAQ indicated down about 46, S&P indicated off about 13 or so. Does come after a week of new highs that we pointed out last week. I don't know, we had 3 or 4 as we continued to melt up, it seems like.
What has it been, like 6 weeks in a row now that you've seen higher for the NASDAQ, 5 weeks in a row that you're up for the S&P 500 too?
S&P closed at a record, didn't it? 3,093.
All 3 of the major averages did on Friday. Let's tell you about some individual stocks to watch as well. Piper Jaffray downgrading Cisco from overweight to neutral, also reducing its price target from $55 to $51. Piper citing a slowing macro environment across the enterprise and the service provider sectors, and right now it looks like that stock is off by about 1.3%. Morgan Stanley has downgraded shares of Qualcomm to equal weight from overweight. The bank says that the valuation gap to the company's semiconductor peers has closed. It's moving its price target from $89 to $90. Okay, moving it up by $1, but you can see that stock down by about 2%. And then there's Evercore that's upgrading Hewlett-Packard to outperform from in line amid Xerox's bid for the company. Evercore says it's raising its price target to $24 from $19. It says it sees multiple paths that the stock could work higher as a result of Xerox's bid, especially if that bid goes through. Right now, the stock's at $19.59. When we return, Disney's streaming service is set to launch tomorrow. We'll talk about what it means for investors as the streaming wars continue to heat up. Plus, some new details from the Trump administration on the vaping crackdown. We'll be joined by former FDA Commissioner Dr. Scott Gottlieb to talk about the latest developments. Stay tuned. You're watching Squawk Box right here on CNBC.
It's another Monday morning. Yet another windy day. So ditch the British winter and chase the sun across the globe with British Airways from London Gatwick and enjoy stunning white sand and crystal blue sea. Fly from London Gatwick to the Maldives with British Airways from £300 each way based on a return fare. Don't miss out. Ends tomorrow. Book at ba.com/wintersun with British Airways. Incredible is within reach. Booking fees and conditions may apply. Limited availability. Selected flights in March.
'Tis the season to be hunched over your laptop. Not on our watch. In real life, you can fill your senses and your baskets. Feel all the sights, sounds, lols, and OMGs. Wear laughing emojis on actual smiley faces. Batteries running low? Take the kids to Santa's Grotto. In real life, you can find just the right present using the most advanced search engine in the world. Your eyes. We heart in real life. Brent Cross, London. Free parking for all sleighs and cars.
It's one small step for man, one giant shop. Sorry, 2 giant shops a month at 10% off with the new Tesco Club Card Plus. Oh, and double data from Tesco Mobile, all for $7.99 every month.
New Tesco Club Card Plus. Value you can't stop talking about. Subscribe online today. £200 max spend per shop, in-store spend only, club card app required, exclusions apply, double data only on pay monthly, home from home destinations. First payment payable up front, subject to status, see online for details.
Hey NFL fans, can't watch the game? Can't be there? No biggie. With your TuneIn Premium membership, you have unlimited access to every team and every game in the league. Listen live as it happens or on demand. Anytime, anywhere. All season long. Search NFL today.
At home or on the go, stay up to date on the latest news and political trends with Fox's full lineup of shows. Plus, when news breaks, Fox has you covered with live updates and expert analysis on the biggest developing stories. Listen to Fox News Talk anytime on TuneIn.
Upgrade to TuneIn Premium and get over 45 commercial-free music stations. You'll also get live commercial-free news, plus live play-by-play games from NFL, MLB, NBA, and NHL. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
Introducing a new podcast, ESPN Daily. When you want to go beyond your feed, when you want to get inside the score, when you want to get behind the highlight, there's ESPN Daily. Go deeper into the stories of the moment. Get the exclusive access and insider perspective that only ESPN can give you. ESPN Daily, hosted by me, Mina Kimes. Listen now to ESPN Daily on TuneIn.
Get social with TuneIn. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for the latest and greatest audio on the app. Explore exclusive content, learn about hot new podcasts, and get alerted when the big game, well, it's about to begin. Add TuneIn to your feed and be in the know when it matters most.
Welcome back, everybody. Disney's streaming service is set to launch tomorrow. That service is going to be priced at $6.99. That's a little bit higher than Apple TV, but it is significantly lower than other streaming services like Netflix and HBO Max. CEO Bob Iger joined CNBC after the company's fourth quarter earnings.
Well, it's ready to go. I'm glad to say. We tested it in the Netherlands. We'll be talking about that a bit on our call, and it was quite successful. Now, the product in the Netherlands did not have original content, but it was extremely well received, not just in terms of the number of subscribers, but the user reaction to it. Very, very navigable, meaning easy to use, elegant, great access to our brands and our storytelling.
Joining us right now for a look at the impact of Disney Plus on the company's bottom line is Alexia Quadrani. She is a media analyst at JP Morgan. And Alexia, thanks for being here today.
Well, thanks for having me.
So what do you think? The question with all of these things has been, okay, now that traditional players are getting into this, they're not going to be able to spend the same amount that a player like Netflix has. What do you think?
Oh, I can't imagine that to be true for Disney. I mean, they spend so much money on content already. I mean, you think about all the brands they have and all the programs they already put on. I think they match Netflix in terms of their spend if you could take into account the movies and everything they do.
Will the stock appreciate that or not?
I think so. Listen, we know this has been coming for a long time. This has been something they had an amazing investor day in April about, and before that, Bob's been talking about it before that for a while. I think they gave guidance on content spend. We know it'll be about $2 billion a year by 2024, and that's on top of investments they've already made, right? They've got the box office coming to them.
Library.
Exactly, the library, the movies, everything else.
What do you think in terms of how you measure success? What will you be looking at to say, okay, this worked or it didn't work?
Well, the investor community and the sell side analysts are laser focused on sub growth. The numbers have gotten crazy. I mean, you don't know. I know this is going to be huge successful. I feel no one's got the marketing arm, the content spend, the brand, the management expertise that Disney has. So I think it'll be very successful. The question is, how quickly will the subs ramp? I've heard numbers from 3 million to 25 million in the first quarter. And that's just 6 weeks, right? Because it launches tomorrow. I can't imagine they'll hit 25 million in 6 weeks. But the point is, there's a huge range of expectations. And I guess the only concern I'd have in the short term is that investors' expectations don't get too high too fast. But I generally think it's going to be a very, very fast ramp.
So if we see 10 or 15 million, you'd say, okay, that's fine. It's 6 weeks and we'll see what comes.
We'll see what comes. I mean, our number officially published is 5 million in the 6 weeks, but we don't want to get too ahead of ourselves either because we don't have a sense of timing. We have 15 million for the first year, and we'll see what goes.
Alexia, who has to sign up right away? Who is the customer that the moment they can, they absolutely have to sign up?
I mean, you've got 30 million homes in this country with kids. Assume 2/3 of those think this is a compelling product. It's a very inexpensive price point.
Can I dig in a little bit? So 30 million households with kids. Just taking my own household, 2 11-year-olds, a 14-year-old, they're out of the Disney products by and large.
They're out of it for now until they go to school and they hear about the tween shows and the teenage shows, or if they're boys or girls, I don't know. They might be hearing about the Star Wars shows. I think then they come home and they subscribe.
I think they're never totally gone.
You're never gone. My kids are teens and they
so are mine, and they're excited.
Yeah.
How does this match up with what you're expecting from some of the other players? HBO Max, what you're going to get with Peacock from Comcast?
I think this is more compelling because the brand is so compelling, and they've got so many brands, right? It's Lucas, it's Pixar, it's Disney, it's Marvel. So I think this is more compelling, but it doesn't mean the others can't work. I mean, at some point there'll be too many, and you'll be winnowing down to just a few. But I think initially when these guys come out, you might see a lot of churn, people trying them out. But the price point here is also so compelling.
I was a little stunned. I saw a poll yesterday that said Americans are willing to pay for 4, maybe even more services, spending something like $46 a month on these streaming services. Does that surprise you?
Yeah, I saw that too. I think it depends. If you eventually get rid of your cable, I guess that seems very affordable. But if you're doing the cable bundle and that, I would say people are going to be trying a lot and then narrowing down to probably 2 or 3.
And which ones do you think are the winners in that scenario?
I think you keep Netflix for a while. You probably see more churn, but I think Disney's got to be the other one.
So what's your take on Disney shares?
We like them. We have an overweight. I think it's appreciated a lot already, so I don't know if it sort of stays still until we see some numbers on the sub side. We won't get until February. Management said they're going to give you sub numbers every quarter, so we will see what they are eventually. So it probably sits range bound for a little bit now, and then probably rallies, assuming the number comes in a good number.
I mean, it's rallied twice on this.
Yeah, it's already moved a bit, so it's going to sit still
on
until
something they're not charging anything for. So I don't know. 250 billion.
I think management's got to balance. Disney, in a way, has a harder job because they have to balance still pleasing the shareholders that want to see earnings growth and in seeing good, rapid growth in this product. So it's going to be a bit of a balancing act.
What are investors' expectations in terms of the subscribers at the end of the quarter? Is it your 5 million? Or
I think it's. I've heard 10. Really,
okay.
10 most consistently, between 5 and 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what we'll be looking for.
Yeah. Thank you. Good to see you.
Thank you.
At home, there's like all those machines are going off every time you say that.
Alexia.
Yeah.
I didn't say Alexa.
We can't have it at
Alexia.
home. We had to get rid of the product.
Honestly?
I think there's a way to change the name, but yeah, we had to turn it off. Yeah.
You know, it's listening. I mean, in my house, we thought about turning it on. I said, leave that thing off.
Yep. It's scary.
I might have said, leave that effing thing off, which that would have recorded, and then I'd be heard cussing, and right?
I don't turn it on at my house either.
You don't, do you?
No.
I'm afraid. Afraid, very afraid. Be afraid. Anyway, coming up, regulators announcing an investigation into the Apple Card algorithm after reports surfaced of sexism in credit limit decisions. Details after the break.
Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast. You'll get interviews, original content, and behind-the-scenes access. Look for us on Apple Podcasts or on your favorite podcast app. And subscribe to Squawk Pod today.
It's another Monday morning. Yet another windy day. So ditch the British winter and chase the sun across the globe with British Airways from London Gatwick and enjoy stunning white sand and crystal blue sea. Fly from London Gatwick to the Maldives with British Airways from £300 each way based on a return fare. Don't miss out. Ends tomorrow. Book at ba.com/wintersun with British Airways. Incredible is within reach. Booking fees and conditions may apply. Limited availability. Selected flights in March.
This is the sound of festive fun in London. You want to keep your savings for the things you love this Christmas, not a new boiler. We're with you. So our boilers come with 2 years interest-free credit to keep your savings for a Merry Christmas. You'll get a 5-year British Gas warranty, and now we can quote by video call evenings or weekends. Get a quote by the 30th of November and get £150 off a new boiler, or £450 off for existing home care customers. Search British Gas New Boiler. Conditions apply.
This is not a commercial. This is a reminder. With TuneIn Premium, you could be listening to more music commercial-free. Get over 45 commercial-free music stations. Visit TuneIn.com/premium to upgrade.
Along the goal line, Martin scores! It takes it home!
Hockey fans, the 2019-20 NHL season is here.
Here's Pietrangelo, he scores!
And you can hear the action live on TuneIn Premium.
And a move, and a shot, he scores!
From regular season action to the All-Star Game and through the Stanley Cup in June. Hear the home and away call for every game, for every team live. At home or on the go, never miss a game with the NHL on TuneIn Premium.
Upgrade today.
Next time you look up at the stars, think about this. Inside you are the remains of a stellar explosion. You are made of stardust. And without the stars, there wouldn't be us. I'm Guy Raj, the wonders of the universe and the people who still look up every night. Next time on the TED Radio Hour from NPR. You can subscribe to the TED Radio Hour on TuneIn.
Far wing, elevates, triple bucket.
The roar of the crowd. The shot clock ticks down. Will the ball go in?
The suspense is pure torture, but you wouldn't miss this for the world. And the replays just don't cut it.
To the sideline, the man fleet for 3.
TuneIn Premium brings you every minute of the NBA season streaming live, so you can be there when it matters most. Hear it now, hear it live on TuneIn.
Fake in the lane, turnaround jumper from 8 feet is good on the
Search
right block.
NBA Today to start listening.
The New York State Department of Financial Services said it will be opening an investigation into whether or not the Apple Card's credit limit algorithm discriminates against women. Goldman Sachs responding in part saying our credit decisions are based on a customer's credit worthiness and not on factors like gender, race, age, sexual orientation, or any other basis prohibited by law. Joining us now for this and more, Joan Solzman, she's CNET senior writer, and Joanne Lipman, distinguished journalism fellow at the Institute for Advanced Study, also author of #1 bestseller, That's What She Said, and a CNBC contributor. Can't we look? I mean, someone knows how algorithms and code are written. Isn't there a way of finding out whether this is true or not?
Actually, these algorithms are a black box.
So nobody does it, but someone wrote them, right?
Someone wrote them. And so here's the issue with the algorithms is that the algorithms are written by humans. They are essentially a language. And if the humans are biased, the bias goes right into the algorithm. And then the information that you feed into those algorithms then becomes biased.
But isn't there a paper trail on whether this is actually happening or not?
I wish there were, and I wish that were the case. But this is actually an issue that is so much larger than Apple, because any company that is using algorithms to make decisions, whether it's on lending, on healthcare, on criminal defense, any of these systems, if there's bias that's built in, then you have bias that comes out.
Although I have a hard time believing that they actually have an algorithm that counts you down if you're a woman. I mean, because that is a violation of law. There may be something else inherently that gets biased into this.
I think there's a lot that's sort of an unconscious bias, so it's the way that your factors are put into it, but it's also the information that's fed into it.
But they ask your salary, I would assume.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you look at the situation where you have people, the couple, right, that started this all, where she's got a higher credit score than he does, and he gets 20 times the higher credit limit. You've got Steve Wozniak, who says, you know, he and his wife have joint everything, and he got 10 times more. So clearly there's something at play, and we have seen bias in other venues as well. And this is not just an Apple issue.
Well, but in that example, it doesn't seem crazy to me. I know it's fun. I'm not saying you are, but just last night looking at Twitter, it was viral. Everybody likes to jump on Goldman Sachs. But in the couple that you described, let's say in this case it's the man, it could be the woman, is the earner. The other spouse is not an earner. They're not always necessarily married and in a union with joint bank accounts. So you could be issuing a credit card. The next day they could get divorced, and you have one who's more creditworthy that's making a bunch of dough, and you have one who's not.
Though, as Wozniak pointed out, they have other credit cards where they have the same credit limit because everything is joint. So there clearly are factors that are put into there. I do think that there is an enormous issue that we do need to understand, because the algorithms are a black box. We should know what's in those algorithms. And it's going to get even more extreme with machine learning, where machine learning, if there's any bias that's going into that information, then it just kind of gets doubled and tripled down upon, like we saw with Amazon. So Amazon was using a machine learning tool to screen resumes, right? And they found that suddenly
inherent bias.
Suddenly they found that it was screening out women because the information that went in to this machine learning, the machine was learning not to hire women because historically Amazon had a poor record of hiring women.
You got an answer for this?
Well, you know, the problem with inherent bias is definitely there, but I think that I don't know how much inherent bias has to do with machine learning in this instance, and just the fact that it's baked into a lot of financial crediting decisions, and not only the ones that are based in technology, but the ones that are just based on human choice. I believe that Goldman Sachs is the one that's taking point on the decisions about approving credits and what credit limits are. And so, you know, Goldman Sachs, although certainly a company known for technology, it's not in the same realm as Apple. And I also think that, you know, Apple, if you're looking at who's going to take some of the blame for this, Apple, I think, has a much better halo than Goldman Sachs does.
I mean, you would need you'd need to control all the other variables that might go into inadvertently coming to that conclusion, I think. Has that been done? And if you just say it's a black box, then we'll never know. So, you know, we're just sort of dancing around the edges of what
Yeah.
really happening here.
Yeah, but you're right. I mean, we need to have a better understanding of what are the factors that do go into that,
Right.
and are there factors that we need to think about changing, or is there inherent bias built into them?
Right, and you need to control. You know, there are so many. I'm just thinking about the latest controversy about red meat. It's like red meat seems, does it or doesn't it? And then you find out red meat eaters, they always have French fries with their red meat. They also don't work out, a lot of them. So there's all these societal sort of lifestyle choices that are prone to people that eat a lot of red meat. So you need to, and it's never been done where you factored out all the wild cards in it. And just, I mean, it's just really come down to, you know, what kind of chromosomes you have when you're born, or I don't know.
And it'll be interesting to see, you know, we're seeing a lot of the problem of a black box. We're seeing that investigations are the things that are starting to crack that black box open. Those are the ways these investigations in Congress are the ways that we're getting tech companies to start to have to show their cards because they don't have any other choice than to start to turn them over.
All right. We were going to have other things to do. We'll have to have you guys back. Joanne and Joan. He was like, he didn't even try to call me.
Joe.
I'm Joe, Joan, and Joan. Yeah, it's going that way.
Joanne.
Okay.
Totally.
All right, when we come back, we're going to take a look at the market impact of the ongoing impeachment process, what's priced in, and what could give the markets a surprise. We'll have more on that when Squawk Box returns.
ServiceNow put our workflows in the...
It's another Monday morning. Yet another windy day. So ditch the British winter and chase the sun across the globe with British Airways from London Gatwick and witness luscious scenery and calming waves. Fly from London Gatwick to St. Lucia with British Airways, with flights and 7 nights hotel from just £739 per person. Don't miss out. Ends tomorrow. Book at ba.com/wintersun. With British Airways, incredible is within reach. Booking fees and conditions may apply. Limited availability. Selected flights in March.
Some people find love par chance. Me, I found love in my Citroën dealership. I looked at new Citroën C5 Aircross SUV with advanced comfort seats, and boom! They say, Emmanuel, you also get 0% finance over 48 months. I say, I love it. Visit your local Citroën dealership and find love too. New Citroën C5 Aircross SUV, the most comfortable SUV.
Citroën. Citroën UK Limited is a credit broker, not a lender. Conditional sale. Terms, eligibility criteria and return conditions apply. A guarantee may be required. PSA Finance UK Limited.
Do you remember picking out your engagement ring in the jeweller's window? Or choosing your first home? Or deciding the names of your children? When it comes to the important choices in life, you've always taken the greatest care. So shouldn't the same go for which firm of funeral directors you use? After all, that's an important choice too. At Dignity Funeral Directors, we're like you. We also take the greatest care. Our name is your assurance we'll be there by your side every step of the way. Just look for the sign that says Dignity. It's on all our branches and on the Dignity website. Dignity Funeral Directors, taking the greatest care.
Catch the latest news as it happens with MSNBC on TuneIn. From American politics to global events, when breaking news hits, you'll never miss a moment again. Search MSNBC on TuneIn to hear the latest.
Ah, finally another commercial, said no one ever. Visit tunein.com/premium to upgrade now and get over 45 commercial-free music stations.
Hey NFL fans, can't watch the game? Can't be there? We've got you covered. With TuneIn Premium, you can hear every NFL game live as it's happening, or catch it later on demand. Anytime, anywhere, all season long.
Markets under pressure. Stock futures falling ahead of another big week that includes a big speech from President Trump and Fed Chairman Powell heading back to Capitol Hill.
More protests in Hong Kong. Today's demonstration turns violent. We have the latest developments.
And e-cigarette crackdown. Is vaping about to turn into a political issue? We'll talk about that and the breakthrough on what's causing the lung illness that has led to dozens of deaths. The second hour of Squawk Box begins right now.
Good morning and welcome back to Squawk Box here on CNBC on Veterans Day. I'm Joe Kernan, along with Becky Quick. Andrew is off today. With us, though, this morning, Tom Farley, former NYSE Group president. He's now chairman and CEO of Farpoint LLC and a CNBC contributor. We'll talk about some of that at some point. We have time. You'll be back tomorrow, too.
Special thank you to all the veterans.
Yeah, exactly. We'll mention that. Try to every time we come back in from commercial. The bond market's closed for Veterans Day. U.S. equity futures at this hour, though, are weaker on a percentage basis, coming off all-time highs. Maybe not that much to talk about.
The news is the momentum shift. I mean, when you've watched stocks go up every single day.
But this is on a percentage basis, but it's 0.5%. Right?
Yeah, but still the first pullback we've seen in a while.
In the morning.
We did see another record close across the board for all three of the major averages on Friday.
I haven't seen Hong Kong, but it was off 2.75%.
Probably because of this news that was breaking overnight. Hong Kong police shot and wounded a protester who is reportedly hospitalized in critical condition. Protests escalated into the violence, which has been rare during working hours just in the 24 weeks since the demonstrations began. Police fired tear gas in the central business district as office workers on their lunch break crowded the pavement and protested. The China-backed government has been the subject of these protests. We should say that many places we saw closings come early, some offices that actually closed early and sent workers home as a result of this violence. Earlier, Hong Kong leader Carrie Lam said that the violence has exceeded demands for democracy. She said the demonstrators are now the people's enemy. Obviously, things ramping up. It has been almost half a year since this began, 24 weeks now. We're going to continue to monitor the situation and bring you updates as we get them.
And here's what's making headlines this hour. American and Southwest Airlines have both extended flight cancellations involving the grounded 737 MAX jet. Both have removed any 737 MAX flights through early March as Boeing continues its effort to restore the jet to service. Elsewhere, Alibaba is seeing record sales in its annual Singles Day event. The China-based e-commerce site saw $30.7 billion in sales within the first 18 hours. This is the 11th year Alibaba has held the Singles Day event. It's kind of weird. The whole concept to me is a little bit weird. It became a big retail day because you
If you're planning on driving this weekend, expect delays on the A406 North Circular Road. There'll be road closures between Edmonton and Tottenham from 10 p.m. on Friday the 15th of November to 5 a.m. on Monday the 18th of November, while we carry out essential maintenance and repairs. All roads in the surrounding area will be extremely busy, so please allow more time for your journey and expect delays in the area. Plan ahead and check alternative routes at tfl.gov.uk. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
Understanding of the underlying assets, or their Shorkian derivatives?
Not that we can tell, ascertain with any sort of significant confidence. It's almost similar, akin to the economic numbers that we get out of China. You just have to kind of go along and trust the process and hope the oil is there. We certainly have a mechanism in the market of a balancing act in looking at the spread markets, but certainly I think there is a degree of skepticism. But that said, Tom, I think this is a demand-sized market rather than supply-side. We just had, the Iranians just announced a 50 billion barrel discovery of new oil. And when we consider that this market demand decay or demand peaking within the next 20 years, really, the question is how long can demand last rather than how much supply is still on the ground.
Yeah, demand peaking in the next 20 years. One of the potential details in the 600-page share sale prospectus that was released on Saturday, giving more insight into Aramco's financials, which is unusual. It was a reversal in course for them, having denied that in the past as being a possibility. Also, though, revealing a sharp drop in profit related to the attacks on its facilities in September. How big of a concern was that for you?
Well, certainly, I think that it is with any of that region. When you have one source that is your primary source of income, whether it is for Iraq, Iran, Saudi Arabia, so forth, when you see that kind of vulnerability in the supply chain and the prospects of the younger generation of people around the world and their view on fossil fuels, it's not positive. And so my biggest concern going forward, and it's been my biggest concern because I've always thought it was kind of odd and worrisome that people were looking at the demise of oil as a weapon, as a price weapon, and they were looking at it as some kind of glee. And my concern, and this will, I'm confident, it is bearing out and will only escalate in the years to come, is when these economies that have been late to the game to diversify, and Saudi Arabia with this Aramco IPO, let's face it, they are 10 years too late with this IPO, and they are not going to get the valuations and the long-term benefits to diversify. So I think it's going to lead to an extreme level of geopolitical unrest, unlike we've ever seen in any of our lifetimes.
Stephen, away from the geopolitics just for a moment, I just want to focus on how the stock will behave, how it will perform, the traits of the company relative to its peers in the oil market. There was a great article over the weekend in Barron's about the royalty agreement with the kingdom. The royalty agreement with the kingdom is highly progressive, and I just wonder to what degree that will make it more or less sensitive to the oil price, just in terms of the equity performance.
Yeah, I think that and I don't want to, I appreciate you want to stay away from the geopolitics, but certainly with that special arrangement between the House and its relationship with the state company, and now you want to open this up to outside investors, it clearly is going to be a sticking point. And quite frankly, I don't have any sort of crystal ball, and this is why I'm staying away from this issue at this point. There are just too many known unknowns. This is getting a lot of hype because it is a monumental decision, given the secrecy of the Saudi government. But when we look at Western oil companies, the likes of BP and Shell, they don't even call themselves oil companies anymore. They are natural gas, they are power, they are energy companies. And I think Saudi is using this as a potential way to rebrand themselves as well. But when you throw in that special relationship with the House and what they're going to get, I think there's going to be a lot of, well, we already know known unknowns as to the impact of MBS's desire to diversify the kingdom away from its mainstay of oil output.
Yeah, I think it's really remarkable that you're saying that they're 10 years too late with this IPO. I do want to just go back to the point made in that prospectus that global oil demand may peak within the next 20 years. They were citing a forecast from industry consultant IHS Markit. I'm wondering, when do you think that we will see peak oil demand?
I think it's Lisa. I think it's going to be sooner rather than later.